South Korea's space dreams moved from ambition to achievement on Thursday when its homegrown Nuri rocket successfully soared into orbit. Now the question becomes, what's next for Korea if it truly wants to emerge as a major space power? Tonight, we turn to our correspondent Park Kwon-woo for a look ahead. Welcome back, Kwon-woo.
Great to be here, Dami.
So, Kwon-woo, you had just come back from the launch site in Kohong. I'm sure you have a lot to tell us more.
I have a bunch of things to tell you. So, especially as you mentioned, I was down in Gyeonggung County, Jeonnam, the province, for the past 3 days covering the launch. It was like, first of all, looking at the rocket launch myself, it was totally incredible and overwhelming to, get to witness the moment. And then with South Korea's domestically developed Nuri rocket successfully lifting off this past Thursday, the satellites on board are now carrying out their missions in orbit. But before we get into the details, let's first take a look at how hard those satellites are working. Even after Nuri lifted off into space on Thursday, stable communication continues to be made with ground stations. Following its initial contact with the King Sejong station in Antarctica that day, the main satellite has since engaged in continuous two-way communication with Earth. The satellite is set to orbit the planet 15 times a day, observing auroras and airglow to study space weather. It's also equipped with a biocabinet to test 3D bioprinting in space to eventually print human organs. 12 sub-satellites deployed are also in steady contact with ground stations as they are on missions including testing on anti-cancer proteins and space debris disposal technologies. While the fourth Nuri launch is assessed as a success, especially marking the first private-led manufacturing mission by Hana Aerospace, more Nuri projects are coming.
After the fourth launch's success, we are carrying out a series of follow-up and data analysis procedures. We also began full-scale preparations for the fifth launch starting Friday, work that had been briefly paused during this latest mission.
The fifth launch is scheduled for 2026, followed by the sixth in 2027. But Korea's ambitions go further.
For the seventh Nuri launch, we are preparing next year's budget, though not yet been finalized. Starting from the eighth launch, we plan to carry out at least one Nuri launch every year.
Still, challenges including securing consistent governmental funding and preparing for more advanced missions, such as landing on the moon, remain. President Lee has pledged support for the space industry, aiming to elevate South Korea into the world's top 5 space powers. With that and more ambitious plans ahead, expectations continue to grow for South Korea's progress toward becoming a true space powerhouse.
So proud, but also so incredible. But at the same time, there are still challenges and hurdles that South Korea has to overcome to become that major space power, right?
Right. So despite the success of the fourth Nuri launch, one notable point is that the intervals between launches have actually been getting longer each time. So if you take a look at the screen, the gap between the first and second launches was just 8 months. But the third launch came nearly a year later. And then the most recent fourth launch took around 2.5 years to prepare.
Right.
So that's in contrast to SpaceX, which has launched 100 vehicles just this year. And frequent launches are essential to prevent the loss of components, technology, and even know-how. And one expert I spoke to highlighted the need for Korea to increase the frequency of its launches.
To keep Nuri's technology and Korea's space industry ecosystem thriving, at least one launch per year is essential. Shorter gaps between launches are possible if more satellites are ready. With high demand from the military, collaboration is key to making the most of Nuri. At the same time, private sector satellites can help create steady demand.
He also stressed that governmental backing will be crucial for future launches, highlighting the importance of making this support systematic.
Kwon-woo, it's all about money. That's why rocket projects, space projects are so expensive. It's costly, but something that we need government support for. Now, I hear Korea's next step is now sending rockets for a lunar landing, right?
To the moon.
Yeah.
Yes, and then the Korea Aerospace Administration aims to achieve that goal by 2032. And Korea already sent an orbiter called Danuri 3 years ago, which will continue its mission until 2027. A lunar lander, 3 times heavier than Danuri, requires additional fuel to overcome the moon's gravity and for a soft landing. The lunar exploration program is being overseen by the Korea Aerospace Administration, while the lunar lander development is handled handled by the Korea Aerospace Research Institute. And finally, the rocket development is led by Hanwha Aerospace, each taking on their respective roles. And if successful, South Korea would become the 6th country in the world to achieve a lunar landing. So let's keep our fingers crossed.
You know, something to look forward to. Kanu, thanks for coming in tonight. You have a great weekend.
All right, off back home. Have a great weekend too.